Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Where is Xur? I am Tie Guy Travis, and today we will be finding Xur and going over his inventory. You can find Xur in the European Dead Zone, also known as the EDZ, and he is down in the Winding Cove. Let's go take a look. Alright, once you've landed on the EDZ in the Winding Cove, you're going to get on your Sparrow, go up this road, and you will find Xur waiting at a cliff that you get through by going through a cave. Alright, here he is. Let's take a look at what he's got in store. Alright, so this week his exotic weapon is the Queensbreaker. This is a fusion rifle, a pretty decent one at that. It's a nice fusion rifle to have in your collection. Not as good as it was in D1, but still you should pick it up. We've got the Wormhusk Crown. This is a just so-so roll of a really, really good exotic. So if you have a better one with higher stats, you should probably use that instead, obviously. But 63 is not bad, and this is just a really good one for hunters to have. Stronghold, on the other hand, I would describe this as an excellent roll of a not great weapon. So high resilience, high recovery, low mobility, all great things that you would want on this exotic. Unfortunately, it grants bonuses to guarding with swords, which I have never found a use case for, so I don't know why you would use this exotic, but it is a very good roll. And finally, Fellwinter's Helm, another just so-so roll of an exotic that is pretty good. The high mobility, high recovery, high intellect are all decent, but 62 overall is nothing to write home about, although this is a pretty good exotic for Warlocks. With that, let's move on to legendary weapons. We've got the 7th Serif Carbine. This is an auto rifle. If you've watched episodes of the show, then you know how I feel about auto rifles in general. With Swashbuckler, though, and Slide Shot, this is just a really terrible roll of this gun. I would not pick it up. Moving on to Enigma's Draw. This is decent. Zen Moment is pretty great. Demolitionist, not so much, especially on sidearms. But the sidearms in general are very in meta right now, so maybe pick it up if you need one. Not my favorite roll. Extraordinary Rendition. This is also not a great roll. Surplus will give you extra, handling, reload speed, and stability with fully charged abilities. I really don't like this perk just in general. Tap the Trigger is okay on submachine guns, but yeah, I don't really love this roll. You could probably skip it. Deafening Whisper. Normally, Killing Wind and Rampage would be all you need to hear. Unfortunately, this doesn't have blinding grenades or spike grenades or any of the grenades you would want in a grenade launcher, so kind of hard to recommend it, unfortunately, despite having pretty good perks. So I'd probably skip that this week, unless, you don't care about blinding grenades, but if you don't, who are you? Sorrow's Verse. Again, I'm not crazy about auto rifles, but you could definitely do a lot worse in terms of perk. I quite like dynamic sway reduction on auto rifles, and One for All is a decent perk in general. But again, auto rifles aren't really part of the meta right now, but you could do a lot worse. So if you are an auto rifle person, check that one out. Next, we've got Temptation's Hook. This is just a good sword. The roll on it is okay this week. If you don't have Temptation's Hook, you probably should add it to your repertoire, but other than that, this isn't like an amazing roll or anything. It's just a pretty good weapon in general. And then Bite of the Fox. I actually really like this roll. Snapshot Sights is probably one of my favorite perks on sniper rifles, so that you can shoot people across the map as quickly as possible in PvP. And Explosive Payload is always useful, especially on weapons like this. Bite of the Fox as a sniper rifle is just an okay sniper rifle, but this is a very good roll. It's also got reload speed masterwork, which I quite enjoy. It's not as useful in PvP since you typically aren't reloading a ton, but it is just a good perk in general. And with that, we will now move on to the armor. We're going to start with the Titans first. So Titans this week, this is really the main event right here, these gauntlets. This is a extremely spiky roll with resilience, which if you know the meta right now of Solar 3.0, resilience is the name of the game. It is the most important perk in the game right now. And resilience being 30, that is about as spiky as it gets, frankly. The downside here is that it's only 64 stats overall, which isn't the highest you could hope for. But in this current season, I would pick this up. I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to find higher resilience than that on Gauntlets. So this is probably the best legendary we got this whole week for any of the classes. The other ones are not as good. So low mobility, and high in other stats, generally speaking. But this is 58 overall, 59 overall, and 58 overall. These other pieces of armor I just would skip. Also, side note, Illicit Invader, really cool armor set, just aesthetically. So if you don't have any of these pieces, I would recommend grabbing them just so that you can get the transmog ability and turn your other armor into this. Even though Gambit is a horrible mode that you shouldn't play, the armor is quite cool. So with that, let's move on to the next class. All right, let's take a look at the Warlocks armor set. All right, so Warlocks this week looks like, yeah, they don't have anything really amazing this week. They've got the super high resilience set of gloves, which are great. Unfortunately, overall stats are 59, which kind of don't make it super worth it. The robes are okay. Again, 60 overall. Some interesting distributions there. I tend to really love low mobility sets, but 60 overall is kind of just invalidates it for me. And then the same over here with the 61 high mobility. I kind of hate this roll. And then this one over here also has high mobility. 63 isn't terrible, but it's really nothing to write home about, and we're looking for high stat armor. So unfortunately, Warlocks this week, unless you want these boots, which could work with certain builds. I like high intellect, so this is kind of cool. But other than that, you probably should skip. Again, armor looks cool aesthetically, but not a lot of substance in the stat rolls. So let's move on to the final class. Okay, let's take a look at the Hunter's armor. So unfortunately this week, Hunters really drew the short end of the stick. They don't have any armor that is high stat. The highest that they've got is 61. And none of the distributions are even particularly exciting. They're all sort of evenly distributed. So if you're looking for a very middling set of armor for some reason, Hunters this week, Xur's got you, man. But other than that, you probably want to skip it because none of this is particularly exciting. That's it for Xur this week. Hopefully you got some stat rolls you were looking for and are getting a little bit closer on that never-ending quest to get that perfect set of legendary armor and your favorite exotics. My name's Travis Northup, and for everything related to Destiny 2 or Xur, stick with IGN.